the specifically rich trainings. A good majority of the other ones in 2, 3, and 4, I'm able to offer.
That might not be a bad idea. So I'm just logging into Zoom. I don't know that we're going to have anybody joining us on Zoom, but we promised that we would record this tonight for people who couldn't be here to listen and take part in it later then. There we go. So I'm going to stand close to my computer so that the microphone can pick up my voice for the recording, but sorry it's in your way, but I guess you can watch on your phone. So one of the items that came from the rep assembly last year was the SDEA developed a place to house all of the information about grants that are available to locals and members, and to have some information presented, like to do a presentation like this one we're doing tonight for members, and then also to make all of those resources, tips, everything available. So we have that done, and we want to show you tonight what's available for you, and then this will be stored also on our website so that people in the future can come back and watch this presentation or just go straight to these links. So what you see up here is a page from the SDEA website. And actually, when you're on our website, that's probably not going to work there. But if you hover under the Hawaii SDEA, the bottom thing in there now is grants. And so when you click on it, this is the page that comes up. And so from here on up, there's a whole list of all of the SDEA grants that are available. And so it's pretty much everything, whether it's available to a student, a family member, a teacher, a member, or something available to a bigger group than that. Also, awards are up there. So they're all there. When you click on any one of them, you're going to get an application form and information about that award or that grant, what it takes to apply for it, probably when the deadline is and when the decisions are made, and all of that information will be available to you. Below that, and I'm going to jump over to the actual page now so I can scroll down. The bottom one up here is national grant opportunities for local affiliates, state and national grant opportunities. And so this one has a lot of other information in it. And I'm going to show you real quick what's there, and then we'll come back and talk about this. So you can see there's local association grants, there's the SDEA racial justice grant, organizing grants, Center for Great Public School grants. These are available to state affiliates and local affiliates. Community advocacy, partnership engagement grants. Read Across America events. GPS funds, so these are other great public school grants. And then organizing in urban locals, which we have a couple in the state. And then these are the Education Innovation Grants, the NEA Foundation, and the NEA Foundation Global Learning Fellowship. So I'll come back to those, but I want to point out that one way that you can get to all of this stuff, I mean, you can click on links on our site, but another thing you might want to consider is NEA Ed Communities. How many of you are members of NEA Ed Communities? Oh God, awesome. So if you have not yet joined NEA Ed Communities, I encourage you to do it. It's kind of like Facebook or LinkedIn, but it's the NEA version of it. It's open to members and non-members alike. Anybody who wants to get in here can. You join different groups. Some of the groups are closed. Some are private, and you have to ask to be a member. Some you just can't even see. They're not. You don't know they're there unless somebody's invited you. Others are open to anybody, and they can just jump in and start looking at stuff. And so the way that you join Ed Communities is, do we have a link on our website or do we have to go over to the NEA site? Okay.
Yeah.
So when you get over to the NEA site, then I think we're on the next screen actually. That's actually where I wanted to be. So when you get to the NEA site, there'll be a place to click to either become a member or log in. A screen like this will show up, and then whatever you've used as your NEA password and login information will go in here. And then it will let you in. And up in the middle of all those menu items is one called Groups. And so when you click on that, it will show you your specific group that you're a member of. You can also just go up to the search bar and start looking for groups. But the one that we're talking about tonight is this one called NEA Grants, the number 4, Great Public Schools. NEA Grants, the number 4, Great Public Schools. And this is just a plethora of information about NEA grants that are out there. So you'll notice any upcoming deadlines about grants over on the left-hand side, right under the photo up there, they'll be posted there. And so we had a deadline just passed on that opened on October 1st. And so there's a cycle right now going on, and they are due early December, is it? December 1, yeah. So, and we're operating under a GPS grant right now to do work with rural educators. So we've got a joint grant with Nebraska State Education Association that we're working under. But locals can also apply for these grants. You'll find a link in here to the guidelines. All of the forms that they want you to fill out will be down on the bottom left side. And so the one that is the most important one to start, and it's off the screen here, is called the intent to file an application form. We have a link to that on the SDEA page as well when you scroll down through the GPS grant. And I want to point that one out because you don't really see it when you start this application process. It doesn't show up automatically and say, hey, file this. You don't have to file it, but if you file the intent to apply, people at the NEA Foundation then see that you're in the process, and somebody will contact you and ask how they can help. And so they'll start asking you questions about, well, what are you applying for, and what do you want to do with it? And they'll offer to help you so that it increases your chances of getting one. And if you apply the first time and don't get it, they might contact you about applying a second time and offer to help. So that's a good piece of advice that I got when we applied for the state one. From an NEA person was fill this out and then we'll help you. For those of you who haven't used NEA or for the Ed Communities yet, there's also a whole group of group files that are over here, and you can open that up and there'll be hundreds of things in there. The only thing that's really not very good about Ed Communities is that this stuff is not organized in any way other than chronologically. So the longer it's been sitting in there, the harder it is to find. And you've just got to scroll through pages and pages of stuff to get what you want. So I hate that. I hope they fix that eventually, but it'll be there. You just have to look for it chronologically. So you'll also find contact information in here if you want to ask questions of people who kind of run the page, or you want to talk to other people who are in here who are running grants. Different affiliates and people who have grants will post things in here, like North Dakota NDU posted their course catalog for professional development. So anybody else can come and look at it and see, hey, what's North Dakota offering? Maybe we want to contact them and see if we can get a copy of the professional development they're doing. And so you'll also see examples of work in there. So when you're trying to fill things out, there are samples to look at as well. And then the other thing that we don't have on our site yet, but we will get up there, is these grant writing webinars. So NEA, when I was filling out one of our updates on our grants, Bob Hopkins from the NEA Foundation was asking questions of she sent me a worksheet that had all these hot links in it. These modules have already been done by NEA on grant writing for tips. So there's preparation for grant writing, NEA linkages, goals and outcomes, budget development, partners, matching and sustainability, final copy and editing, and mistakes to avoid, process and tips. There's a whole workshop on grant writing, and then there's a higher ed and ESP version of it that give tips for those two kinds of specialty grants. So right now, when you click on these links, it makes you log in with your Communities account to get to them. But we can kind of go around that and find the YouTube version of this. And so we're going to link to the YouTube version so people will need to use that Communities to get in and make those available to you to watch.
Notice you've got the website up there. If you haven't joined Ed Communities,
There, yeah, there it is.
mynea360.org. You can set up a profile. Except the password's like 13 digits or something like that.
Yeah, it's awful. So this is the worksheet I told you that NEA also has. We'll put this out there for people to download, but we decided we didn't want to print this out because you really want it this way so you can click on the links. So we'll make it available, but all of these links are the ones I told you about, but you're going to need Ed Communities to use those. Otherwise, you can use the ones that Sandra puts on our webpage. Yes, Sandra.
This would be a good point. I also want to just let y'all know the NEA is updating its grant application process, and so it's not up yet, so what's there is still current, but in the coming months, I don't know if that's 2 months, 6 months, 12 months, the links will change and we will update our website when those updates happen.
Or if you're looking at things and you find a link that's broken, let us know.
Yeah.
I think the Cape Grant link should be live, new and live now.
Okay. I know I did a Read Across America beta test for them, and there's some tricks to work out. Let's just put it that way. So they're still using the old Read Across America application process, and so but they're hoping to get that out and launched soon. Okay, sorry, Rich.
That's okay. This handout also has a whole list of those forms that you might be looking for, and it might be easier to just hop on this to find what you want before you go to the community site and look for it. But there's a lot of information there. When you're applying for a GPS grant, they have a ton of forms because the grants go on for 1, 2, 3 years. And so there are lots of update forms and big budget forms and all kinds of stuff to fill out. And those videos are really helpful. We've done this stuff now, so if somebody a local wanted to apply, we'd be happy to help you too and give you some information about it. When we did this last one, we had done the SLO one that we were under, was the other one we did. Nebraska had never done one before, and so we taught them everything that we were doing. They applied for a much bigger part of the grant than we did, so they've got a lot more to manage right now, but it's nice to just share that information with each other. So another thing that there it is, that we link to on our webpage is the NEA Foundation site. And so there will be, the homepage here has all kinds of NEA Foundation grants in all kinds of realms. This one is just specifically about grant resources. And as you come down here and look, they've got these things like the writing tutorial and the guide for current grantees and information about fiscal sponsors. And there's just a lot of information here. So this is all very helpful. Some of it is specific to NEA Foundation stuff, but a lot of it is just general information that's good stuff to know about grant writing.
And the NEA Foundation, the previous grants that we talked about were a lot about your local grants, but if you're a teacher in the classroom and you're looking for grants, the NEA Foundation is a great place to go. So if an individual teacher or group of teachers want to find grant opportunities in the foundation, there are SDA Innovation Grant.
And the foundation's always looking for innovative things to fund. And they have lots of money.
So are there specific ones on here that you put in that you want to talk about right now?
I would, just for a few minutes, talk about some of our SDA grants. Remember that we have local associations. Okay, try that again. Local association grants. There's money in the budget for up to $500 grants. The grants need to be, when you go in and look at all of that, they need to be aligned to the strategic goals. And it's a first come, first served. Once the grant money is gone, that is the end of the grant. The racial and social justice grant, we still have an awful lot of money out of that $10,000. And we've gotten a lot of questions about, can we use it for this? Can we use it for that? And the answer is yes. Please fill out a grant application, but we've had few who have done that. So just know that there is still a significant amount of money that's there. So those are the two that are ongoing and go until there isn't any money left. The innovation grants, those are due in May, and those are for classroom-based projects by members. So those are the SDEA grants that we have. We can't put EPIC grants on here because we do have local grants for EPIC because we can't mix SDEA and EPIC in the same place. So that can't be on there, but those exist.
And what are some reasons you would use an EPIC grant?
Might be a school board election. That's probably the most common, or some other
We use
local
one for a bond issue.
Yes, bond issue. Yep. Most common is.
So the Center for Organizing also has grants. There is some information on here about those organizing grants. So these are for membership growth. Does the New Ed campaign stuff fall under this, or do we handle that differently? So
Locals would be able to apply
for on their
Something
own,
that
okay.
just a state affiliate can apply for, it's not on there, with the exception of Read Across America, it can be both.
Okay, and you can see there's a link here for guidance on applying for these grants as well. And then the Center for Great Public Schools that we talked about, which is open to state and local project grants. They can focus on family and community partnerships, but also professional development, leading the profession. So leadership, or, just about anything that's going to advance the profession. If you've got an idea, you can probably submit it here and find a way to get some funding for it. If it's a popular topic and there's a bunch of states or locals that all want to be in on it at the same time, they might consider a group grant. I'm surprised they didn't do that with trauma, but that's another possibility. And then we'll have to keep updating this, but so we'll post deadlines. This was the one at the time when we put the site up was September 15th. Now December 1st is the next one, so we'll have to change that to get that updated. Yes.
I'll throw out there too. Both of you are, you also have potential with the student members and or retirees. Be creative when you think about applying for these things, about how you can also process across different constituency groups like that. That will strengthen your application, but it will also strengthen the relationships you use for anything else you want to use. So the students previously applied for Read Across America grant, and it was great. They had a really hard time getting K-12 locals to work with them on it. So that was specifically where they were at, I believe. But that's something that is a huge opportunity, I believe.
Have any of your schools started Educators Rising chapters in the last year or so? You guys did, okay. So Travis Lape from Harrisburg has kind of spearheaded that. It's getting high school kids interested in becoming teachers. And we partnered with him on that last year. and are doing it again this year. But that would be another thing I think, like a topic you could use is if your local chapter wanted to work on getting a chapter for Educators Rising going and running it yourself, trying to get funding to get that up and running might be something to apply for with one of these grants. Absolutely. Our social and racial justice grant actually would be a really good place to use that. So yeah, community advocacy, partnership, and engagement grants. Read Across America, you guys have been familiar with that. Yes.
Oh, yeah. So, you may have heard that Read Across America is we no longer have licensing relationship with Dr. Seuss. So Read Across America is no longer just March 2nd, Dr. Seuss's birthday. It's a year-round activity. If you go out to their website, and I don't want to digress too much, but if you go out to their website, every month they have a book that they feature, and it's for the different grade levels, and it comes with suggested lesson plans and how you can use it in your classroom. And so it's a year-round event, and it's for more diverse readers, culturally diverse readers. So in a nutshell, we don't have Cat in the Hat anymore. We can't use Cat in the Hat in our Read Across America activities anymore. So we're developing what that looks like specifically for South Dakota. I can't tell our members, and I can't tell our locals what to do when it comes to Read Across America, but because we no longer have those licensing rights, we can't. So if you have, back to the Read Across America grant, if you have a reading program or something that you want to do in your local to promote literacy, you might be able to apply for a Read Across America grant.
And do you have some of these packets with you to give? If you want any of the kits for Read Across America, they've got a calendar for the year with the featured books and then a poster that has the books for the year. And Sandra's got a few of these. So Sandra, I noticed that the application form for Read Across America, that link didn't work.
Okay.
Yeah. What else am I missing that on here? Have we covered everything?
Another tip or trick about writing a grant specifically for the NEA is you're definitely going to want to work with your unit director or Mary or someone on staff, because the NEA has certain phrases or sentences that will move you up in points. And so when you're writing your grant, we will be able to tell you, well, you want to make sure that you have organizing capacity. I'm trying to think of some of the member engagement, community engagement,
Retention.
Membership growth. Those are things that you're going to want to make sure that you include in whatever grant application you're applying for. And I think as they become all online and sort of the same format, you will start to see what those words are, because they'll be asking you, how does this build capacity? How does this build membership? How does this engage members? So you're just going to make sure that you're using that language.
I would also suggest involving a group of people in writing your grant at your local level, because, remember that these aren't used dollars, so you want to make sure that whatever you're writing in for a grant, you're going to be able to do. It's possible to do that alone, even if it is a simple project. So you want to make sure that you're doing the development of the capacity ahead of time to make sure you're able to execute that grant if you are successful in seeing.
Yep. Any questions?
I would really to take a look at the Global Learning Fellowship. It's a kind of grant. It doesn't provide you a grant to do activities in your local, but it provides you an opportunity to participate in a global learning and travel that accompanies that learning over the course of a year. What? Yeah, Carrie Conda was in South Africa this summer.
Just gonna see if I could find, there it is.
What?
From Groton.
I don't know if that was for any.
That might have been something else. It used to be that the teaching excellence individuals automatically win, but that's changed. It's by application only.
So this is all available right now. We've got a few things we have to correct on here or get those links for the modules up. And the modules, I will tell you, are boring to listen to. But if you if you just fast forward to them to the parts that you want, then it's pretty good. Like the one on tips, there are really some good tips in there, but you might have to just jump ahead 15 seconds at a time to get to what you want. So, all right, well, thank you. No, just Sandra.
So what we'll do, this is recording, and we'll upload it into some fashion so that it will be available.